Hi, I'm Michael Bean, and this is your lesson for myfreeactingclass.com for Monday, November the 9th. Today, we're going to be talking about camera technique and self-tape review. So a reminder that if you want to be included in next week's self-tape review, please send your tapes to info@myfreeactingclass.com, or you can just go to our website, and the link's right up there at the top. But yeah, send us your recent tapes, send us your old tapes. And by us, I really mean me, because I'm going to be the one reviewing them. And then I'll take a look and give you notes and use that as an example of the kind of self-tape. So today, Melissa, who sent in a couple of tapes before, has sent a link to her Actors Access profile, where she's got a bunch of her own videos, some of which are clips from class, and some of which are things that she recorded specifically to have as demo footage. And so it'll be a chance to not just look at those and give feedback, and she has one that she has some specific questions about, but also for me to show you all what a well-apportioned Actors Access profile looks like, and to talk a little bit more about demo footage using a real example. So not just, here's my idea of demo footage, but here's the real deal. To start with, just in terms of talking about layout for camera, I think it's useful to go over the basics, which is Eyelight, this shiny thing in my eyes, Eyeline, the line between my eyes and what I'm looking at. And I realized recently that I've been suggesting that people use the corners of their screen, and I've even been doing this for my tapes. And I actually think that this is too far off camera. That if possible, what we want is something that is just here beside the lens. And it's just so easy to set that up if you're doing self-tapes at home, because you can position the zoom window wherever you want, right? You pin yourself, you use the other person's sort of tiny video, you put them on one side or the other. I've also sometimes on my computer used my movie program. I'm on a Mac, so I'm using iMovie, but really whatever program you're using to capture video on your computer, and then put my reader, whether they were in Zoom or sometimes I use a site called weaudition.com. Again, they don't pay me any money. It's just what I'm actually doing. And I'll put my reader on just one side of the camera, and then my own video just the other side, so that I can still clock it out the corner of my eye when I need to, and make sure that I'm not like doing this piece of the scene like this or something like that. So let's take a look at some of the other folks here. To talk a little bit about background, right now I have a collapsible stand behind me with a piece of stretchy fabric on it. You can see that it gives me a nice clean background. It means I can set it up really close to this window. Not that you can appreciate it right now, but the best eye light you're going to get is from a large window and just setting up your camera, like a meter or so in front of the window. That's when you're going to get sort of the best fill light, and you're going to get the best highlight. I don't know if you, so this, what I'm using right now is a very inexpensive desk-mounted ring light. And you can see that it does give you this great shiny spot in your eyes. It makes a big difference. The other thing you can do is just grab any sort of desk lamp, put it directly behind your camera, take a sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper and just tape it or clothespin it over top so that it diffuses. It's called diffusion if you're on a professional film set. But you can throw that up there so that it's not blinding. So if we look at Kira's backdrop, then right, again, blue, one of the reasons that blue and bright green, are such common choices, and particularly blue, I think, for actors' backdrops, is that it doesn't show up in human skin tone. And so it's not going to mess with the white balance typically. Right, like if you have a blue background, it's not going to make your skin look hideously blue, because you just don't have that much blue in your skin, even if you've got very prominent veins. Whereas especially somebody like me, or I suppose Kira with her red hair, if she was against a red background, she would be like, poof, and she would look like she just run a marathon. It would be very unflattering. So that's why blue and green typically get chosen, but also like a beige or a gray. Casting directors have started to say that this is totally fine. Like when they're in their list, they're like blue, green, gray, beige. I've seen that in several casting directors' descriptions. Right, then we've got, so this background that Claudia has, totally right for it. Right? You can see before we started, I asked her if I could show her video, and she's like, "Yeah, but my lighting's really bad." And I was like, "Yes, that's the example." Right? So that you can see that without an eye light, she looks like she's dead inside. And that's not the case of her emotionally. See, look at that smile. Clearly not dead inside. But without light reflected in her eyeballs, the audience experience, whether they know it or not, is going to be, they're not feeling as much. And unless that's exactly what you're going for, and maybe even then, strongly recommend you get some kind of eye light going. It is so much more important than you think it is. Well, actually, those of you who are here, you probably already know how important it is. But some of you at home, maybe you don't know. And in case you don't, there it is. Right, so then if we look at Moira's background, you have something like this, really great, I think, if you are in a big meeting, right? Like if you're doing a Zoom meeting or Zoom class, and you have a background that shows a little bit of personality, great, because they're only seeing it, at like thumbnail size. But blown up big, we're going to spend as much time looking at the countries that look like they're coming out of both sides of her head as we are at her face. And again, you can see no highlight. So thank you again for letting me show that off, Moira. So just some examples. Eyelight, Eyeline. You obviously want to be in a medium close-up, and I think all the three of the people we looked at were in a medium close-up. Claudia, if you were doing a self-tape, you might actually want to move slightly closer to your camera. I mean, obviously for something like this, it doesn't matter, but top of the head to just below the armpits, and really that's just so we can see your eyes as much as possible. The more people see of your eyes, the more they will assume that they know how you're feeling, and that they can sort of imagine their way into that. So let's look at, let's look at YouTube together here. YouTube, no, Melissa Miles. So this is Actors Access. Melissa has created a private page for herself. You can see that she's Melissa came a bunch during the summertime, and I think is involved in school right now. But you can see that she's edited her resume to be super clean, we went over in detail in the couple sessions we had on resumes, which is just like the title of the film, the size of the role, the director. Now if on my own resume, for instance, if the production company is also the kind of thing that make people go, oh yeah, I know that one, right? So if it was like Fox Films, then you would put Fox Films, director Rian Smith, something like that. And if not, then something like this, I think, is a really solid choice, because if I glance at this in 5 seconds, which is what a production person is likely to do, right? Decision makers likely to do, what we see is lead, supporting. Okay, great. Guest star, co-star. For the record, because Melissa's in the American market, this word co-star sounds really fancy. When we say principal role in BC, that is what they call co-star in the US, and so I know Canadian actors who have simply adopted the American language because they're like, well, mostly American decision makers are looking at it. I don't think it matters one way or the other. So if you think that co-star sounds fancier, great, put co-star, and I don't think anybody will say boo about it. But obviously if your agent has a different opinion, take your agent's advice. Details, there's some classes, there's some special skills, etc., etc. But these are the videos that, and one in particular that she wanted us to look at, and which was the Crying Cheating Wife. Now, my opinion on demo reels, and this is lifted directly from the LA-based casting director Bonnie Gillespie, who wrote the book Self-Management for Actors, and I have not seen a lot of her stuff online lately, but that's just because I have not been super active in looking it up. But she transitioned from being an LA-based casting director to being somebody who coached actors on how to get work, essentially. And Bonnie's strong position, which I think is very well supported by my experience as a teacher and in helping younger actors, is that a demo is not a record of everything you've ever done. It is a marketing tool to help decision makers know how to cast you next. And so Melissa's question about this particular tape was, this is off-brand. this tape that I've got there, is it worth keeping? And so I'm going to answer that question because it was her direct question. And then we're also just going to look at the tape, for eyeline, eyelight, vocal quality, all of that, and look at that for detail. So one of the things I don't know, and I'm going to need you to help me out with, is if I open this in my browser, which is if it opens up, come on, open up performance video. Interesting. That looks like a no, but I can probably do this. Aha, aha, aha. Thank you for your patience with the technology. What we're looking for is this one right here. So first off, I would say the title is probably a little on the nose. The crying cheating wife is sort of very, very specific as far as categories go. And I'm just going to cut it off, I think 20 seconds before the end, or 15 seconds before the end, because the language gets fairly extreme. But what we've got is a neutral blue backdrop. Her hair in this video is fairly different from her hair now, if I'm remembering right. I think she's gotten a lot blonder.
Does it really matter? Yeah, it really matters. I'd like to know the name of the person you threw our marriage away for. I think.
And so we've got, we've got a good eyelight. The eyeline is close to camera. The background, is not distracting.
That's not the right time now for this conversation, considering that. Considering what?
Now, my main issue with this is how distracting the reader is. Like, her reader is just, probably this is just from an acting class, and the reader was just going for it and feeling it and like really feeling themselves and really all about the feeling. But as a result, her reader is very distracting. And in fact, her reader sounds sort of theatrically over the top, and that's got a bunch of my attention as somebody who I know Melissa somewhat, but my thing about this tape, is the reader. And so thankfully on most movie editors, you can separate the sound and you can take bits of it and clip them out and take them down. So honestly, my first thought is, if you were like, yeah, this clip, it really does it for me, trim those bits out and just take the audio on the reader way down, so that we can like make out what they're saying, but we're not like, wow, they're really going for the feeling.
Considering that my mother is dead.
Right? See,
as if you
we're mostly, oh, sorry, my bad. Dang it, you missed the, and we don't have Caden, the 7-year-old here today, but he might watch the video later. So probably not gonna watch the rest of that one. Right, but the reader has a lot of the dialogue, and it seems to be there and present mostly as a like, look, I can cry, and so I don't think that. And so in answer to Melissa's question, like, this is kind of off-brand. Do I think it serves her as an actor to have it there? No, I don't think so. I don't think that it is probably necessary or useful. Is it well taped? Absolutely, except for that thing about the reader being too loud. Are there colors to avoid wearing for self-tape? Blue or gray backdrop. I would say anything that makes you look like a floating head. But I often, honestly, against this blue, I often wear this dark blue. And I like it. I mean, it's professional and clear. There are some bright blues that, depending on your white balance, will actually make you look like you're just like, woo. And I'm not crazy about those. I think more significant than colors are like patterns or words. Anything that draws attention from your eyes. And this is, you're talking about the keeping people's attention, which is just modestly effortful. It's attention. You can read the Wikipedia entry on something called attention control, or it'll come to me, cognitive load, if you want. If you're like, what? Why, Michael Bean? This can't just be your opinion, and it's not. Really, once people are doing something effortful, it just doesn't feel as real. It doesn't feel as true to them And so if you can make it really easy for people to just focus on your eyeballs and listen to your words, then you will seem more interesting. And so that's what you're really thinking about with wardrobe. Now, I think that it's another entire lesson, and really one for which I should get a panel of the people I know who are the best with wardrobe. I honestly keep mine pretty simple. This blue shirt makes it, shows up a lot. My real conversation with myself was like, do I wear a tie and the suit jacket or just the blue shirt? And I kind of end there. But there's some of my students who just like the way they choose to dress, it changes their behavior, it changes their stance, it changes the way they come across on camera. That's where character comes from. And if you saw last week's lesson, character is an illusion. A lot of that has to do with wardrobe. And so it's a long answer to your simple question, Claudia. Let's look at some of these other videos on Melissa's profile. Right, so we've got FBI agent, nurse, first up. And Melissa and I talked and at some length a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and she wanted to talk about sort of her own brand and where she wanted to position herself. And because she used to, I think when she was living in LA, she was a German college student. And LA is such a huge market that even with such a narrow brand, that's actually in some ways wise of her in that market. But she's looking at transitioning into a Canadian market, where she's going to want to broaden out a little bit. So we looked at her material. Then I was like, yeah, this FBI agent and nurse that you've got in your demo clips, these sort of professional characters, or characters that have that little bit of like severity, the little bit of German accent will work for that. While she's working on getting her standard American. And so let me open up some of these and show them to you. Right, so FBI agent, I think looks like it's a clip from a short film, something like that. But you can see that in terms of the way she wants to position herself visually, totally does the trick.
Steve was getting some evidence at night on the dirty cop.
Well, sometimes when you ask too many questions, it leads to
and this might also be something that Melissa taped herself, which we haven't talked about for self-tapes yet. And sometimes actors are like, for a self-tape, should I like set it up like a movie? And either way, for me personally, if you are moving outside of professionally shot material, I think something in a studio is probably a better bet. As demo material to kind of show people what you can do or show off your range, then until you have like really clean professional stuff, that you're almost better off going with something that's shot, neutral backdrop studio, because that clip that we just watched, to me, there's like confusing background, like she doesn't have great eyelight, the audio is not great. There are lots of sort of little things about it that say cheap, which is not what you want decision makers to associate. So even though it's like totally right and on brand, and she knows about this, and she's looking at it, and she said that I could talk to you about these things, so don't worry about her. She's being brave and letting me show you, which I really appreciate. Speaking of which, any of you who want to be brave and send one of your even distant past audition tapes, so that I can give you feedback and so that you can help other actors by being an example, I would very much appreciate that. And so you'll see the nurse clip, which is the next one that she's got on here. This one looks much more like, I think it's still a short film, but technically this one is done much better. And so even though it doesn't showcase her as well, like we don't see as much detail, or because it's such a short clip, the video quality is much better. But maybe it's just seeing FBI agent and nurse top in those clips makes decision makers go, oh, okay, right? That's how to cast me next. And it used to be that people would edit it all together. They do a comedy demo and drama demo, and you could certainly still do that. But seeing the way that Melissa's are labeled was instructional for me, because it is just absolutely clearly stating for decision makers, here's how to cast me next. So you might even want to label it. So if you were going to clump them, you might say comedy, uh, like goofy guy and professor or whatever. I'm trying to think of sort of my own, as opposed to using somebody else as an example. So if we look at the nurse.
I'm going to take you to the doctor right now.
Right, audio's cleaner. We got a little bit of background music, like super crystal clear. And then this because we're close to the end of the session. Like I could go through all the rest of these and sort of give notes, on each of them. But you get the point. One of the things that those of you who've come on several of the Monday self-tape reviews, Melissa's sent in commercials that she's working on, and each time I've talked about her accent and how she's sort of working on reducing her accent. I want to show you the clip that she's got on her profile of her speaking in German, so you can just see. So talk about cognitive load, right? Again, this idea of cognitive load is really key. If somebody is not performing in their first language, and if they're doing accent work at the same time, as long as that's taken up a huge chunk of your brain, you just don't have access to everything that's available to you. And I think there's a straight line between that and knowing your lines extremely well. That even if you're a skilled actor, even if you're like somebody who's been doing this for years and you've got those skills in your bodies and you could read it 3 times and just get on camera and do it, which the actors who've been training with me for say 2 or 3 years, a lot of them can do that. They're like, yeah, I've got 7 pages. I'll look at it for half an hour. I'm ready to go. As long as it is taking a bunch of your kind of short-term memory, it's taking a bunch of your attention, to remember those lines. You don't have that attention available to do the next level of stuff. And that's probably not an issue if you're doing 1 line or 2 lines. But as soon as you're going out for more than that, and really, I would say even with 1 or 2 lines, like, does it really take that much longer to run it 30 times instead of 5? I don't think so. And then you've got your whole brain available to do those little tweaky things of like, okay, now I'm going to play exactly with my eye lines. What exactly am I doing with my eyes? I'm going to have that extra energy to look at the imagery for the story. What do I mean when I say this line to this person? What does that mean to me? How do I want to affect them? What am I seeing over there on their side? And if I'm really just sort of like stuck in place looking at my reader, because most of my brain is like, yeah, that's my next line. Yeah, sometimes that's interesting to watch, but it's not going to have the depth and variety. And I don't think that positions me to be competitive I don't think that positions me to be competitive for film and TV roles. Where it is very competitive. Lots of people are hungry for those. And so whether you approach it as like be competitive, which is not exactly my style. I'm not an American teacher, but I still think it's true. That I'm for me, it's more compelling to be like, what kind of artist do I want to be? Right? Do I want to be a competent craftsman who's like, yeah, I delivered those lines like a real person? Meh. Or do I want to watch the tape later and go, oh, look at the story that I'm telling? Yeah, right. Like I feel myself, even in this ridiculous, silly little project, connected to something that is bigger than myself, which is the art of telling stories, and embodying those stories, which is as old as people are. And you can tell which side my preference falls on, but because I don't know which side your preference is on, I will also say, I think that you have a competitive advantage if you put in that extra time. But here's a clip of her doing a performance in German so that you can, I don't know what the words mean, but you can see how much more ease there is and how much more natural and believable the text is. She's going to get there. It just might take her another 6 months or a year of very hard work getting the dialect.
Die werden ihr Blutball haben. Und dann werden die sterben. Und dann die Leute unseres Alters. Leute, die eine Vision vom neuen Reich haben.
Right, so the Eyeline is nice and close to camera. She's got a nice eyelight. She's got a clean background, right? Like the audio's clear. But do you see how much ease there is in it? There's nothing forced or pushed about it. And that's what we want, is that foundation. And well, just keep coming back to that, of both being extremely believable, and finding your own full range of expression in it. And they do kind of pull in different directions sometimes, right? So often actors, when they start, they put all of their attention, or I always recommend with new students, they put all of their attention on believable. And then once you've got that, if you're like, yeah, I know how to do that. I can even do that with 7 pages if I need to. Cool. Well, then you can do the fun stuff. Or you get to the part that where you're like, cool, well, like, who am I and how do I use all of those colors to paint the picture? Right? Can I tell a better story here? Can I paint a better picture? Moira, you said, how old does the script have to be able to use it as a demo clip? It really depends what you're doing. If you are posting it on YouTube and using the title of the show, in the name of the clip, well then yes. If you post a very recent one, you might get in trouble. But honestly, if you have audition scripts, basically if the show has already aired, probably you're okay. Like 100%. If the show hasn't already aired, you're taking your chances. Now, is somebody from the legal team at Fox, when they going to find it in your Actors Access profile? Probably not. Are they going to find it if you put it as a title over top of the video and don't put it as the title of the video? Probably not. But why take your chances? In general, if it's already aired, then the script is fair game. And I'm not a copyright lawyer. I'm not an expert. I'm just saying what is likely to not get you in trouble. And worst case scenario, what's going to happen if somebody does have an issue with it, is you will just get a notice from YouTube, hey, there's a copyright issue with this, you need to take it down, or you'll get an email from somebody. Likely you will just get an automated message, and it's not going to be an issue. Okay. Any questions about any of the things that I've gone over, or anything else that you were holding on to and didn't throw in the chat window? Yeah, right. Candy's, Melissa, Candy's giving you props, so we give you the sign language applause. Here, I'll put you in gallery view so everybody can do it. Yeah. All right. Thanks for coming. Tomorrow, I'm going to be looking at deliberate practice, which is Anders Ericsson, the expert on how people develop expertise, and talking about one of his sort of fundamental aspects of deliberate practice, which is goal setting, and what that might look like for film and TV actors. So, what quality, or especially measurable, trackable goals look like for film and TV acting, because it's so easy to get lost in and here's what I'm going to do. These are kind of the roles I'm going to book. Guess what? Those are totally outside of your control. But what's the what are the meaningful steps that lead up to that? And can you understand those and break them down? I think up to a point, absolutely yes. And I'm really looking forward to your input as we get into that discussion. Then Wednesday, currently I have penciled a talent agent from the United Kingdom, and she's going to join us and talk about acting in the UK, which I don't know very much about the film industry over there, and so I'm looking forward to that. And then Thursday, we have the fabulous Rogi Yu joining us, and just pull up his IMDb page for you. Right, he was one of the series regulars on a show called Mr. Young. He's got a whole bunch of credits here. He's also just finished doing something at the Arts Club. He's performed in major theaters across Canada. Very skilled actor who also has been teaching for years, both with Bard on the Beach, and with a local film and TV acting school. So he's going to come and talk to us about his experience as an actor, and as an actor who's really gone back and forth between doing theater and film and TV, and then what it's like for him making the transition to COVID and what he's learning in the middle of that. Hope some of you can join us then. Okay, thanks for coming, everybody. Bye.
Michael, thank you.
Bye.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll see you later.
Bye.